I'm actually up here to introduce our first speaker, who I'm so pleased to be able to introduce because I think the Knight Foundation is a study in how much good a foundation can do by being focused. This is a foundation that has a laser-like mission, and they do it with incredible expertise and can safely claim the bulk of credit, certainly not all, but the bulk of credit for all of the amazing positive developments that have happened in the way of finding solutions to the crisis facing journalism. And it's because of the leadership of Alberto Ibargüen, whom I am pleased to introduce. Please join me in welcoming Alberto.
One day I hope to deserve that introduction, but it isn't quite yet. I do think, Craig, all those panels on the future of journalism have all been funded by Knight Foundation. Are you suggesting that we rethink? Welcome everybody. Welcome to the museum. I first of all want to welcome you as chairman of the board of the museum, taking on a different hat than Knight Foundation, and as chairman of the museum, I want to make sure that you take some time out during the day and see this fantastic museum dedicated to free speech and free press. Welcome also from some of my colleagues who are here. I see Jessica Vince Steely is there, Jessica Goldfin from Knight Foundation. I'm delighted that they're here, and I'm delighted that you're here. The reason we sponsor this is based on a couple of fairly straightforward set of beliefs. We believe that information is at the core of democracy. We believe you cannot run a community in a democracy without the free flow of information. That's why Jack and Jim Knight created Knight Foundation. They wanted to support the development of the communities where they had done business, where they had done so well, and they wanted to support journalism. They believed in informed and engaged communities. And as we live in a time when news and information are thin and thinning in the United States, far more crucially than nationally, it seems to us that we should redouble our efforts to do what the Knight brothers did during their lifetime. We believe that although it wasn't an issue in their lifetime, that they would have agreed that universal access is a matter of equality. If you're not connected, you are a second-class citizen. You're a second-class citizen socially, economically, and politically. And we believe that we have a role, and you have a role, we all have a role, in tearing down the barriers to entry for people who do not have access, and those barriers are famously rural versus urban, with rural significantly disadvantaged, poor versus wealthy, I don't need to explain that, and of course age. We're not alone. I saw an interesting letter this morning from the Christian Coalition that believes in these same kinds of things. They believe in universal access. And we have been working on this for quite some time. About 2 or 3 years ago, we went to Aspen Institute, and with them created something called the Knight Commission on the Information Needs of Communities in a Democracy. It was co-chaired by Ted Olson, who was the attorney in Bush v. Gore, and was former Solicitor General under a Republican administration, and by Marissa Mayer, who is the Vice President for Search at Google. After a year, Charlie Firestone, who is here from Aspen Institute, worked throughout all of that time, and their recommendations were published last October. I hope you saw them. If not, they're available at our website, www.knightfoundation.org. And they, not surprising to this group, recommended universal broadband access, recommended media literacy, recommended government transparency, And we knew when these sets of principles, their charge really was simply to say, what are the information needs of communities in a democracy? Where are we now? And what public policy can we recommend to get from where we are now to where we need to be? It's a fairly straightforward mandate. And we knew that the issue was not going to be the report itself or the general recommendations. Who can be against universal broadband access? We knew that the time would come, though, when you actually start to implement this is when the debate would really happen. And I think that's where we are today. The administration has set out the National Broadband Plan, whose central goal, which we fully support, is the provision of high-speed internet access for all Americans. Our attention and energy must now turn to creating the frameworks, structures, laws, and incentives needed to achieve that goal. That will entail difficult and intense discussions. It already has. As you know, in the past few weeks, we've witnessed already fierce debate. I wish the volume could be turned down. I hope the volume will continue to be low today as you engage in a variety of discussions about a lot of ideas about how to reach that goal. The issues we're grappling with necessitate an ongoing and open debate among government, citizens, industry, and advocacy groups. And it seems to us that regardless of the specific proposals, our deliberations and the decisions we make about governing internet should be guided by perhaps these three principles or aspirations. Number one, that competition and innovation be encouraged. Number two, that the internet remain neutral and open. And number three, that access to broadband be universal and affordable. Increasingly, I'm delighted to tell you that many U.S. foundations have realized how central broadband access is to the future of our society and economy, and are beginning to turn their time, passion, and resources to this issue. And I'm particularly pleased to tell you about Ford Foundation's entry into this field with a commitment of $50 million over the next few years to support broadband access. It's very important, it seems, from my perspective, that we have a broad range of players in this field. Internet policy and the architecture of the web is an issue that concerns all of us, not just those interested in communications. And I hope as you deliberate about specific policy issues and then go back to your communities, that you engage not just the people who are already interested in media and information, but engage others, because it touches all others. In our own work, I think one of the most interesting projects that we've begun, which we began about 3 years ago, was to engage community foundations in the business of informing their communities about what really mattered. Community foundations are found throughout the United States. Almost all of them are created for the purpose of meeting core community needs, and yet none of them were focusing on information. You have a polluted lake, how do you know? You don't know if there's no free flow of information. You have a crook on the city council. You have opportunities for commerce, or you have issues in education in your community. You just don't know unless there is that free flow of information, and that free flow of information needs to be local. So we thought the community foundations would be the logical ones to work on this, and we offered and have now and are now about to complete our third year of a contest open to all community foundations anywhere in the United States. We will match up to $4 million, whatever they are willing to do to meet the information needs of their communities. And that has ranged from figuring out the carbon footprint of a town to supporting new online news operation. That was in Park City, to supporting online news operations of the Voice of San Diego in that city in California. The point is, and the reason for my telling you, is that there are allies. There are plenty of allies if we simply open up our scope, and rather than look always at the people who have been interested in media, look at people who have been dealing with any range and number of issues. That, like community foundations, perhaps even like United Ways and organizations like that, that can become allies in the fight to have all Americans have access. One last point about public media, and I, as the former chairman of PBS, I couldn't not make some note, but I really believe that public media in the United States deserves greater support and attention to the extent that public media becomes more portable, personal, and participatory, and to that extent it becomes more locally relevant. I would love to stand here and tell you for the next 3 or 4 hours all the wonderful things we do at Knight Foundation. I hope that, that instead you'll go to our website, look at it, comment on it, tell us what you think about what we're doing, and tell us about areas that you think where you think we might profitably lend our support. For the rest, I want you to know that I truly admire your dedication. I admire the dedication of the people who run Free Press, your commitment to equality, and I hope that you will have an extraordinary, extraordinary day. Thank you very much for being here.